Hello, good evening, and welcome to GF Uncensored. A little bit of a later time, rolling into 9 o'clock now here in the UK, and I've got a wonderful guest with us tonight, and we'll introduce that person in a minute. But hope everyone's fine. Hope everybody's had a fantastic weekend, and I think we're all ready to go. And good evening, then, that's joined us in the comments box. And what I'm going to do now, all the way from Louisiana in the USA, I'm going to bring our good friend Dante Desanto. Good evening, young man.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking. You're welcome. There is a little bit of a delay, a lag on the time and all that, so I do apologise for people if we talk over each other, but we will go over any questions and all that. And when I've seen some of your videos and you doing a little bit of your spiritual side of yourself, I do feel very uplifted when I'm watching you walking around, because I do know you're out in the open in Louisiana. Would you like to introduce yourself to all the good people that's tuning in, and it'll go out on YouTube later on as well, so we can have a catch up and people will be able to tune in as well. But again, thanks for taking the time for joining in. Would you like to introduce yourself for us?
Certainly. My name is Dante Desanto. Of course, it's not my real name, but it's the name I chose. But I've been a tarot reader for a couple of years. I've been spiritual for about 3 years, a year before I started reading cards. Other than that, though, I've had a fairly normal life. And it's almost like I'm playing catch up when it comes to spirituality, because I spent about 3 decades of being in the dark the whole time, always knowing there was something else, but not ever figuring out what it was until recently.
Yeah, and what I found over the years with myself, obviously I played football for like 35 years, and then I went on a bit of a music run, and I was watching a lot of bands and stuff like that, as well as in between the spiritual side of it. So where would you like to begin in the earlier days, where you was just a normal up and coming young man, and how's things treated you from day one?
Well, back then, when I was born around here, actually, right next to the Mississippi River. I was a stone's throw from the Mississippi River. I'm pretty sure it's a pretty famous river here, over here at least. Um, and mom and dad. Long story short, I don't want to drag on too long about the past, but long story short, my mom and dad had 4 kids together. Uh, got divorced. My dad moved to the northwest of the U.S. My mom stayed down here, and custody had me going back and forth a lot. I never got to stick around the same place for too long. It's a year in one place, 2 years in the other, back over there again. There's still a lot of traveling. Um, Later on, I grew up, got my straight out of high school. I was short by 1 credit or so, by a couple of credits before getting my high school diploma. And my mom says, "Hey, why don't you join the Navy?" I was like, "Oh, I might do that. Let me think about it for a while, for like a week or so, and I'll get back to you." She brings the recruiter over the next day, and all of a sudden, he's selling me gold. He's selling me diamonds. And so I joined the Navy for a while, for about a year and a half or so. That wasn't for me, so I found a way out of that, and then started just working 9 to 5 type of jobs. Um, then after some drunken episodes of being drunk and stupid, messing some things up in my life, I have to spend one whole night in a hotel room by myself, no phone, no internet, no nothing, just one whole day, one whole night to myself, a whole day and a whole night to myself, and I'm just like, I gotta change things. I can't keep living like this. And then I started researching a little bit on spirituality, not really getting heavy into it. And an old friend of mine from Oregon told me to check out this tarot card reader, and I'm still friends with this reader today. And I had her give me a reading on what was going on in my life when it comes to me and my ex and all that kind of thing. Of course, it always goes. Most of the time, people want to know about the relationships. It's either relationships, work, or just a general reading. That's usually the big three. Um, and then her reading was spot on. I was like, how does somebody I don't know everything that's going on about my life and just pinging things left and right? I'm like, how'd you do that? It's like, well, I read cards. I'm like, okay, well, how does it work? We'll get you a deck and then start reading the book and everything else. So it's just like I was like a kid learning a new skill, like going to Boy Scout, the week long camp out and learning new skills and stuff like that. And I got a deck of cards, one of the beginner sets. Then I messaged her and told her, I was like, hey, I got these cards. And she's like, did you read the meetings? I was like, I'm working on it. She's like, well, give me a reading. Let's see how you do. I gave her a reading. And she's like, you need to be doing this. This is exactly what's going on in my life, too. I'm like, I'm doing this for a professional reader for my very first time. And she's giving me the okay to do this, like, just to do it. And so I started off going to the bookstore and just sitting there with a cup of coffee every couple of days or so, and learning more about the cards and everything else. Learning about angels, demons, deities, Buddhism, all kinds of different religious stuff, and see how it factors in together. And eventually, I just came up with my own mind, which like all religions is basically talking about spirituality in their own way. So it just made logical sense as like they have their own views, but for the most part, certain parts they hit on point. And that was my intuition was really strong back then. Nowadays, it fades in and out to give me time to breathe. Slowly but surely, it's almost like an Olympic swimmer who trains every day. Their lung capacity grows, and it's almost like that. It's like working a muscle. So, like the more you use it, and then relax it, use it, relax it. It's like a muscle, I guess, when it comes to your intuition. And you be able to notice it better at some point in times, and other times you need to relax for a minute. Give us a break, I guess.
Yeah.
And then some people can actually they just all kinds of people do it different ways, which is amazing.
And I picked up on there, like who was the actual person that you went to a reading first for? Do we know them? Can you relate to that person, or was you intrigued with that simple message that you got, and then things tied in for you? It is mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, I jumped into it head first after that reading. I got so excited and I was giggly, just like, oh my god, I can do this. I went straight to it, and from what I've heard, a lot of people don't actually do that. They usually been reading cards for a while, like months or years before they even start going live and doing readings for other people. They usually stay with doing self readings for a while, and everybody was super shocked that I was like, I just started learning like a month before I started going live, and I started doing lives and posting on YouTube and everything else. There was a mystic shop where close by where I lived at, and so I went there all the time. Talked to the owners there and stuff like that, and the people who go there. And I started looking around at everything. I was like kid in a candy shop, looking at all these different kind of books, checking out what crystals mean, everything else, and then coming up with my own perspective on it. I think everybody should do that. There's no just one way of doing it.
And again, with the intrigueness of picking up the card and the tarot cards, was there a specific pack you was drawn to? Did you go to the pack that the person that read for you first? Was you drawn to like similar cards that they had, or was you just drawn to a set pack of your own cards? Obviously,
there was a certain deck that called out to me really strongly. The rest of them are kind of like people around the mall or something. You got certain vibes from each one of them. But this was like it's almost like somebody I knew. So when I'm looking at this tarot deck, it's the Crow's Magic Tarot deck, and it's magic with a K at the end with a C. And I got that deck. I've been using that for a while on my YouTube channel. I think my older videos it shows me using it. I had lost that deck a little bit ago. I am looking to order it again so I can get those same cards back. But the reader that taught me, she basically my mentor for the first little bit, teaching me how to go about doing things. Rest, make sure you eat before you go live or before you do a lot of readings. Keep your energy up and all that. She was coaching me a little bit here and there while she was doing her own thing. She's building her business. She's doing really great. But like she saw me using that deck and she was like, "Where'd you get that?" I was like, "What kind of deck is that?" So she asked me about the deck that I was using, and she wanted it real bad. I think now her significant other has it now. She stole it from her. She's like, "I'm taking this deck. You never use it." But it's a good deck. I got somebody from another country that I need to send a copy of it to. So when I get myself another one, I'm gonna send her one as well. But I found it on just at that store. Just at the store.
Also as well, I'm going to wish Nikki Scanlon a happy birthday for this week. Just so she's got an investigation as well coming up next weekend. So happy birthday to you, Nikki, and enjoy your week off. Linda Judd has said some gifts are dormant and they are obviously triggered. Feel like fully developed talent comes out straight away. So it's like I always feel when I started off, my gut intuition wasn't far off, and I was getting a lot of deja vu and 7-year gaps and cycles. And then all of a sudden, I got to about 37 or 42 on a number of 7, and it just 35 or 42, and it just kicked in, and it was just like, oh, I'm running with this, and you don't know where it's coming from. Do you actually see spirits as well, or do you just get the direct messages of when you're working with the cards?
I don't see them, but I feel them. It's I get the empathic ability, but yeah, whenever I started doing readings, I don't think I've had a reading that was off since I started. So I've also noticed that even in the olden days, women always seem to have a natural talent for these kind of things. Hello, Jennifer. Women have always had a natural talent for this kind of thing. Men had to work a little bit harder every time. And so every time when I first started, I was like, there's not very many guy readers out there. It's nothing about the sex thing. Feminine energy is really strong. And I've learned that everybody has, both sides to it. It's a part of that yin yang thing where yin yang is not just about light side and dark side. It's your masculine side, your feminine side, and there's light, dark, and all the other stuff. It's all mixed together.
Do you also sense as well sometimes where it's like you're picking up on the energy as well? Do you find that they're in your aura so close sometimes and they're just tapping away at you just to get your concentration and your communication when you're chilling and relaxing? Do you get a little bit pestered, or are the spirits outside mainly, or do they come in when you open up?
A lot of times it's more mental for me when it comes to it. Sometimes it starts off mental where I get these ideas. I'm like, where'd that come from? And sometimes I get a feeling and then I have to analyze the feeling. So sometimes it's figuring out how you feel about a thought. Sometimes it's how you think about a feeling. But,
do you pick up on any of the spirit energies, ailments or the mannerisms or anything like that? Obviously, the characters do shine through when they're talking to you. You can pick up on what type of spirits coming through as well and trying to communicate. And I always find as well, I feel we go through a cycle where you can have a certain batch or an era or a decade of like a jovial character seem to come through for a period. Then you'll get somebody that's really struggling 3 or 4 times. You get certain energies that come through in that same field and bracket, depending on who you've been around. Do you find anybody affects you in certain ways that before you read, if you're around somebody that's negative, does that throw you off or anything like that?
I do my best to try to ignore that, but yeah, I do feel it. When it's a negative feeling, I try to ignore it. If it's a good feeling, I kind of go with the flow a little bit. Sometimes I'll get someone would ask me, like, can you read about my passed away grandma or something like that? And then their grandma would, sure enough, my voice would start changing. My accent would change a little bit. I mean, they'd be like, that's exactly how she would say it too, and that tone of voice and everything.
Yeah,
it happens every now and then. Not with all of them. Some spirits are shy.
Do you find that if you've obviously been through somewhere, a county or a state, and you're traveling, do you find that you're getting that accent as well with the spirits that's in and around you very strongly? Then they're coming through.
Actually, when I was in the Navy, we had I think we had a guy that was Irish. He had a thick Irish accent, and just talking with him for a few minutes. This was before I was awakened or spiritual or anything. Just a few minutes talking with him, my voice started changing to match his tone for the accent. And I had to apologize. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of you. My voice just started doing this. But yeah, depending on how long you are at some place and how it affects your spirit and stuff like that, or determine as how strong or weak the effect is going to be on you. Some places you'll go and you just feel uncomfortable. Some places you go, you feel way too comfortable. You start being yourself and not knowing why.
Yeah, Linda Judd said it
thinking.
sounds like you're getting a little bit of channeling as well when you're getting the strength coming through that as well, and the changing the tone of your voice box and stuff like that as well. Have you ever had any experiences where spirit have come too close or taken over where you wasn't expecting it?
Myself, and I think everybody who's watching has had experiences with spirits taking over. Whenever you, uh, for an example, you're a really nice person, you have kids, and and then normally your kids are fine, everything else, and when they act up, you're understanding, you're caring. But then all of a sudden, they do this one thing that just irritates you, and you go off on them. You're like, "Why did I do that?" And stuff like that. It happens to people all the time, and they just don't know realize it really.
Yeah, I was watching one of your lives the other week, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think it was late on here in the UK, so it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was just drifting off, and I think you was out in the wilderness and you was just walking around, and you was dead relaxed, and then you pulled a pack of cards out and you started doing a live as you were just strolling around as well. And I was like, I've got to try that, I've got to work with the energies outdoors as well. I just felt you were so laid back, and I thought, I've got to catch up with this guy sometime, and I just thought it was a nice way to see people work so relaxed, but like no office, your office was outside.
If I noticed that people react to those kind of things in different ways. Especially, I've been finding out more and more lately. That because at the time, I was actually stressing about finances, doing my work and everything else, and trying to keep up and pace everything. So it really was stressing me about. I was doing my best to stay grounded the best I could. I'm like, I want to go out. I said I'd go out and do a live out in the nature and go by the river and stuff. But I also want to do reading. So it's like, let me weigh my options. Why can't I do both? And then the idea just came in. Why can't you do both? So I was like, I'm just gonna bring my deck. Come on, guys, we're going on an adventure. If you guys need a reading, let me know. Till then, I'm checking out the woods.
It certainly makes sense. I do. Everyone works in different ways. But I think next time I go for a stroll, I might just take one of my packets of cards. But I always get drawn to it just reeling and coming in off the cuff as well. It just comes naturally, doesn't it? Where it flows, and when you start, it's like, oh, that's it. But I do enjoy the lives as well, and working spiritually is amazing. Who would you say that you mentioned your nan? Who would you say is anybody else very close that you work with spiritually?
Well, it wasn't my grandma that I worked with that last time. It was a client that wanted a reading about her grandma. That's one I connected with. But as far as my ancestors go, I have felt my dad's presence before. He passed away at the beginning of this year, and I was in Texas for about 5 years. And then after he passed away, not even a few weeks later, I was like, I'm out. I'm moving. My reason for being here was to be with Dad, help him out, learn my spirituality, and then go do something else. And I just didn't feel like being in that area anymore, so I just took off and left. And then like my dad was watching over me for the first little while, and now he's kind of like holding back and just watching me right now. He ain't really he ain't cluttering my space. I always told him that kind of thing. I was like, personal space, Dad. And
yeah.
I think he's starting to get the hang of that now. He's getting into a new area of this journey, I guess. No longer in the body, so he's able to see things more clearly. I try to get him to come over here to relax and stay with me and my brother, and enjoy the rest of his life and go fishing. Enjoy the outdoors a bit more instead of being stuck in a city. So, but yeah, I feel him. My grandma's spirit actually comes by every now and then because I am living on the land that she was here with. So every now and then, especially when I go out into the woods around here, I feel my grandma's presence a lot. It's always a good feeling.
So when you
experiences with negative spirits too.
Yeah, it's okay. Carry on. You carry on. I'm listening. You're saying about the negative spirits as well. So have you had some devious characters to put
definitely. One. There's been a couple experiences with it, but before I don't recall them, or I haven't really analyzed the situation well enough or to call it because it was still long ago. But when I was in West Virginia, I did feel a malevolent spirit around. I think it was sent by a witch, somebody who was sending a spy. So you can definitely work with the darker sides, you can work with the lighter sides, and some people can work with a bit of both. But while I was there, I guess the person I was staying with had some enemies, I guess, that were spiritual. and they just send spies and stuff like that. And so I heard this word. It wasn't even in my voice. You know how your inner monologue, it's always the same voice inside your head that's
Yeah.
inside your head. This was not my own voice. So I heard, "Who are you?" And just I spoke out loud like, who's asking? Who are you?" And not even a little bit later, I felt a presence. This was a strong presence. I don't see spirits, but I can feel them. And I could almost see this shadowy figure, like not even a few feet away from me. And I didn't even notice it until I felt a cold air breeze brush across my leg and then turn. And like the AC has never done that before in that house. And so I'm like, there's something here. I told my roommate, and she felt it too. So like that was definitely an experience. It scared me, but at the same time, keeping I was keeping my guards up. Actually, I think I did a couple of protection spells right after that.
Yeah, we'll touch on some of the spells in a bit. When you're getting the communication side of it, I always try and say to people, it's like when we've got our brain thoughts and we're thinking as a human being, and when we're receiving spiritually, it comes in from like a different corridor, doesn't it, of the brain? That's the way I always try and explain to it. The messages I'm getting is coming in from a different corridor from our own personal thoughts. So when I'm trying to work spiritually, I always try and shut my personal thoughts off, take my emotions out of everything, and have a blank canvas to be open to receive what's coming through as well. So it's nice to see how other people work spiritually as well, and pick up on how they work as well. Is any mediums out there or anybody that you've seen really you've took to a shine to the way that they work as well? Have you thought, oh, they're amazing? Does anybody inspire you out there?
As far as spiritual people that are pretty big on it, that's really expanded their knowledge a good bit. Um, like I usually say, Alan Watts. I wish I could have met him in person. That would have been a great time. Terrence McGillis, Ram Dass, Sanguru, like all the famous ones that you see nowadays on videos and whatnot. Even Matt Kahn, I think he's also pretty powerful. Matt Kahn has an amazing ability to just, or no, not just Matt Kahn, he does it too, but Eckhart Tolle, I think, is the biggest person. He's probably the strongest spirit that I know that can keep in the flow constantly. Like I was saying before, most of us, we go in and out of flow state and everything else, and being in flow state is being, you see it in movies too. Some movie, The Last Samurai, where he was training with the wooden swords and stuff like that with the guys. And the guy was trying to tell me, he's like, no mind, as he's like, clear your thoughts. Don't think about what's going on. Just let do what's naturally to be done. You'll know what to do. Like, you won't know why you know what to do. You just know it. So it's, to me, meditation is a big part of it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. As you say, clearing that mind is very, it's like giving that blank canvas, isn't it? It's clearing the mind and then forgetting your daily thoughts and then running with it. What you're getting receiving from spirits it's just amazing.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the one thing I like to use in my lives a lot, specifically when it comes to meditation, is that phrase, when somebody like lost their train of thought. That's usually a big one that I use a lot. And it's like, if you want to conceptualize it like that, your train of thought, your we call it, not the caboose, the main engine part of it. Those are the thoughts that come in. Or if you want to take it on a more natural level, say you're floating down the river. There's a bunch of big bubbles around you just floating down the river with you. And all these little bubbles are actually thoughts. And you can either choose to get hung up on them, and eventually they get cluttered. The whole river gets jammed up. And you can't think straight because you're clouded by all the thoughts around you. So the easiest way to meditate and let loose of all those thoughts is to let them come and go. As in, don't try to force any other thoughts out your head. You aren't trying to force it. You're going to let it go smoothly. It's like, oh, that's a thought. And don't add any more things to it. Don't ponder on anything specific, and just let it go through your mind. And eventually you get that cleared feeling that you feel great. And just things will come to you after that.
That is so right with the meditation side of it as well. Thank you for explaining that. On the when you're doing the meditation, do you go to your specific sacral place, or do you have a place where you like to go spiritually, in your like a garden or a nice beach or anywhere? Where do you drift off somewhere? Do you like try and get towards a certain beach or an open field when you're meditating or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, no. I can meditate just laying in bed on the couch, sitting in my truck. The first When I first started learning about what meditation was, I had to think back to one of my jobs where I was a fry cook. I fried chicken for a living. That's all I did. Yeah, I was like, I was meditating the whole time I was working there almost. I had to think about,
Drifting.
like I said, I awakened at the age of 33 is when I awakened, which 33 I guess is a master number. Like 33, 11, 22. And speaking of numbers, we see them all the time. I still see them. Like they don't. I don't think they're gonna go away. Every time I'm thinking about something important or. Huh?
I have a very good friend that keeps seeing 609 and 906, but I think that's like an infinity number where it just keeps going round, and they're the center point around the link of everything, because it's the same whichever way you spin it, so there is a lot to do with numbers, isn't there, spiritually?
Oh yeah, and the thing is, everybody has their own concept of it. So whatever higher spiritual being that you go to, whatever spirit in a body that you go to that makes the most sense to you, go with that one. There's no really specific way. It's like it has to be like this. Some people go to the same website all the time with like angel numbers and stuff like that. Some people go to certain descriptions that other people have made. It's like, okay, well, 1 means this, all the way up from like 0 to 9, and then any combination of those, you just combine whatever energies they said about those. But as far as the meditation area, when I was working, I would be just breading chicken and listening to music in my headphones in one ear, listening to orders in the other. I'm not really thinking about nothing. I'm just doing the job and feeling the music, and you just get into a groove. And the meditation is what they call a flow state. Both of those are the same thing.
Also got a question there coming in from Linda again. Do you feel you've been busier more around the COVID period, where obviously people have been in lockdown and they're experiencing more? Has it been busier spiritually for you in and around the COVID situation?
Well, considering I just started right before it happened, I wouldn't really be able to know what the difference would have been, since I started around the time that it started.
Okay.
Well, it's been hit and miss. It really depends on the month and what everybody has going on, where they're living at the time. Sometimes I get busy. I get more business and more people coming in from Australia and all over the world. And then some days I get people from locally in the States.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more about the bookshop days then, when you went off to your bookshop or the coffee shop, and how did you find that was really kicking in? Was you really opening up in there, or you just reading all the books and really getting in depth into the topics and the subjects and learning?
I went there mainly to study the main tarot book that I had. So I go to the coffee shop area that they had in the bookstore, or I'd take one of the astrology books or something like that, because I'm actually trying to expand into astrology and figuring out. But first, learning my own chart. That's usually what everybody does. They learn their own chart. And so I realized, I was like, wait, I'm not just a Leo sun sign. And then I'd look into like star seeds and the races from the stars and stuff like that. I can't remember the names. The Pleiadians. I started learning about those and see how I felt about that. You basically just tinker into a bunch of different things. And it turns out my astrology birth chart even tells me that it's like you're interested into the occult or mystical and stuff like that. I'm like, I am. So yeah, when I go to the bookshop though, it was it's a different feeling. Like I said, it doesn't matter where we go to a different state or a different area, different country, different town, even you feel different energies. And bookstores have that natural energy, the smell and everything else, all together combined, gives you a different kind of feeling. And so it was comfortable to me. So I went there, and I was like, I felt like I could come here in peace, not having to worry about anybody else thought. I like the vibe of this place. I'm gonna go there and vibe with it and learn my things in peace. It was nice.
Also, David saying there that he's seen a lot of equal numbers, and obviously since he's been meditating more over the last 8 months, he's really opening up now as well. How would you advise anybody that meditate? I think meditation is the link to the key to the other realm. How would you put a portray on with helping somebody else, or giving any tips to anybody else around meditation?
There's no right or wrong way to doing it. Not really. As long as you feel that way, that certain way, you'll know it when you get there. Whenever you get there, you're not too stressed. You're not really stressed at all. I'm not gonna say not too stressed. You're just not stressed at all, and you're just kind of in the zone. For younger kids, through gaming, they would actually not even know it. Like I said, when I was cooking, I didn't really feel I didn't notice it then, but it was exactly that. It was meditation. So you can meditate while you're doing something. You don't have to sit a certain way unless that is the way it makes you comfortable. Then by all means, go for it. It's basically an adventure, something, a puzzle, so to speak, figuring out your own way of meditation to where it fits you, where it suits you best. Some people like gamers when they get into competitive gaming, like the Call of Duty games, stuff like that. They get heavy into the game. They get in the zone, and their bodies and the controllers are moving, and they're not really thinking about anything else. They're just every now and then a thought will pop in. Okay, this is the points and the ammo, whatever. But it's just going through naturally. It's flowing through. So a lot of kids actually meditate through that when they're not getting all hyped up and angry, frustrated at it. When they're just enjoying the game and just going through it. That itself is meditation. But as far as even numbers go, well, odds would probably be an imbalance. Evens would be a balance. That would be my perception of that. So if you've seen a lot of even numbers, then you're either working on balancing stuff out, or you need to head that direction towards balancing things out. A lot more times than not, it's probably going to be you already are in the process of balancing things out there. Anytime you see repeating numbers over and over again, it's not so much what the numbers really mean too much. Of course, that adds to it, but it's more along the lines of what were you thinking at the time you saw those numbers? What was on your mind? What were you doing? What were you giving your attention to at the time you saw those numbers? And then go to the numbers themselves and what they mean to you, and stuff like that. I think lately I've been seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, and not just on the time. So
again, on that, ask yourself the question prior: what was I thinking before that thought come in, or you were seeing the numbers or anything like that? So I always find as well that spirits will answer you in certain ways, even if somebody's not really spiritual, but they're picking up on the friends and family close by that's around them as well. So when you think of a thought in your mind, spirit will give you an answer straight away, even though you might not know where it come from and think, oh, what was that? The amount of times I've had people come up to me and say, I'm not very spiritual, but I keep feeling like I'm getting a response, but I don't know where it's coming from as well. So again, I'm just thinking about like development classes and all that. Do you go to any circles or anything?
No, I'm pretty much solitude right now. I'm at a time right now where I'm just by myself. It's just me, my 2 kids, and every day I'd wake up. I've been waking up earlier and earlier. I know some people they find they find that they wake up like around 3 a.m. every single day, stuff like that. But like even if it's like everything kind of has a meaning, but you don't really have to learn heavily what the meaning is right then and there every single time. That alone is going to clog your flow up going. You're just going to clog up your chakras and everything else by overthinking it. A lot of times overthinking will kind of just get you in a stuck place. It builds frustration. So like even blood clots would be a physical expression of that. But instead of blood, it's the way your mind is flowing. Your mind has a lot of different things that it likes to do. When it comes to conscious thinking, which is what we normally do every day, it's the subconscious that really gets you. Those things that you're doing are like, oh, I've been doing this for a while. I didn't even think about it. That's your subconscious at work right there.
Gemma's saying that she keeps seeing 111, and David West keeps saying he sees 111 and 1818 as well.
Well, when it comes to 1111 or 1111, funny story. When I was working as a cook, I was being heavily pulled away from that, mundane everyday job that I really didn't like. I wasn't happy with that job, and I was being pulled more towards doing the tarot readings. And like I didn't want to pull myself between. I was like, well, I need a job, make money, and that's what builds frustration. But then when I finally got sick of it, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I got 2 stories. This story and then one more story after this, and then I'm free. But yeah, like whenever I clocked out for the last night that I worked there, like I told the assistant manager, I was like, look, this is my last night. I ain't coming back. Good luck finding another cook. I got I gotta do something else. As soon as I clocked out, and we closed at 11, and I clocked out at 11:11. So I'm like, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is.
Angelique saying she sees number 19 a lot, and I always try and relate to numbers as 1 and 9 make 10, or 9 take away 1 can be 8 as well. So sometimes spirits will show you numbers, but play around with them as well. And again, just seeing them things, there can be so many different permutations of what spirit are actually trying to tell you when they're showing you stuff, and numbers as well. So it can relate to a few things I'll always try and describe. So we don't just look at it as one perspective of seeing 19. It could be, again, different ways of working numbers out around each other on equations.
Yeah, they got a whole name for that, numerology. For 19 though, you can keep those separate with 1 and 9. 1 being yourself, and 9 being something that you've almost finished or something like that, or something from like the 9th dimension, whatever that means to you. You can combine them together to make 10, then cut it in half. That's 55. 55 is a master number. Sometimes, for some people that might be watching this, you may be able to find some insight by writing down all the different ways that you can mess with those numbers that you see all the time, especially if you see them every day, constantly. That's a big sign. They're screaming at you to say, hey, it's something you need to figure out. So yeah, definitely work on things like that. When it comes around so often that you really can't help it anymore, definitely look into it. It's not something you're supposed to be ignoring. It won't stop until you actually figure something out.
I mean, obviously we're not doing readings at the moment tonight, but Nikki Telia has put a question in. Can you see are you picking up on any type of outcome for Sergio, I think it was, that's working at, he's employed at FedEx. Is he gonna be terminated? And obviously I would say with that is just, for me, I would just say go with the flow, basically, because if life's taking you on a certain path, it will put you on that path. But I won't put you on the spot, but if you want to answer that, or you're picking anything up around that, just feel free. You know what I mean?
That question may have actually come around. That question might have come to her whenever I was talking about me whenever I quit my job. So I actually straight up quit without having any other job lined up or nothing. I put my entire faith into the tarot cards and stuff like that, as far as making a living and helping people out at the same time. It just felt right to me, really. I was like, I enjoy doing readings. Readings help people figure out things on their own. Just by me nudging them a certain way or getting them to think things from a new perspective. And if I can get a little bit of money to live up for myself to live on, it's an energy exchange. Money is energy. So definitely just whatever's meant to be, let it be. If he really wants the job, don't stress on it. Go to work normally. You can go by based off those initial gut feelings. A lot of times your intuition isn't going to come in with a feeling attached to it. It's always just going to be what it is. And then we attach the feelings to it afterwards, whether we like it or whether we don't like it. It doesn't come until afterwards.
Again, I was going to talk on that. Go on, carry on.
Come on, search. Oh, I just saw the question. That's all it was.
Okay. Do you get many? Yeah, that's fine. Do you get any energy drops? How do you recover from when you've been working spiritually? Are you a strong coffee guy, or do you have like an energy rush or a sugar rush or anything like that?
I normally eat whatever I have around. Sometimes I'll eat a little bit healthier whenever I'm feeling a bit too drained. Other than that, I'll eat regular food, take a nap or something like that, stretch out, relax. Usually I'll lay down. I'll lay down for a little bit. That's usually all I need to recharge when it comes to my energy. And if I have to, miss a whole day of doing stuff, then so be it. That's me time. So I gotta make sure I don't do that too often.
Yeah, no, but that's a great, that's a fantastic mindset to have that.
Yeah, don't be afraid to rest.
Yeah, don't be afraid to rest. I mean, I can honestly safely say I had a really lazy weekend and I really enjoyed it. And that's not like me, but I do like, sometimes you've got to put your feet up and relax and chill and unwind. in and around Louisiana, is there any states or counties that you get drawn to or go through where do you pick up off the lie of the land spiritually? Do you feel things from centuries ago or the past or what's gone on at that present moment in land when you're in the zone? Do you get any of them sensations?
Not when I'm driving through, but if I'm stopping at an area, I even felt this before I was awakened. I felt it as all the traveling that I'd done when I was a kid and stuff. I'd always feel the differences, and I'd have to backpedal from where I am now and think back of how I felt back then and what it might have meant. So I'm basically piecing the things together throughout my whole life before I started being awakened. I piece all those things together, in hindsight. I have to to figure out why things happened the way they did, and then
We touched on earlier on backstage where you mentioned about West Virginia as well, and can you give us a little bit more insight for the folks that's obviously never been to West Virginia, or how you felt when you was going into that county or that state?
That place had it was a lot of old energy. I felt it was just a lot of old energy. The people there were completely different because I'm pretty sure they have to deal with it every day. Yeah, you can feel it's not so much ancient as much as it is like there was a hint of ancient, like when like Indians and stuff roam the area, and then you also feel probably a bit more. It's probably a bit more prominent that you feel like Civil War type stuff from back in the Civil War where the soldiers were fighting in that area and stuff like that. You feel a bunch of different things. I know I went down to the basement, which is where the washer and dryer was, and I couldn't piece out what they were talking about, but I had the feeling like I was sitting down with it. It's hard to explain in words, but I was sitting down with a bunch of construction workers as they were taking a lunch break and just chit chatting about their everyday stuff. And I just felt like, why do I feel like I'm in a group of working? Like I've actually done construction type jobs, and so I know exactly how it feels when you're just chit chatting with the guys while you guys are taking a break or waiting on some equipment or something like that. So it felt like that. It was a strange feeling, but I was like, it was nice. I, make sure I didn't be a wallflower. I just said out loud when I was there, physically by myself. It's like, this is actually pretty good brickwork. You guys did good. So it felt nice. Every time I went down there after that, it felt nice.
Yeah, it's. I always find the pick up on the a gatekeeper in and around the land. So over in the UK, obviously, I find there's a spiritual energy that's been around looking after a particular area and stuff like that. Do you ever come across any? If you go into a building, you get a certain bombarded by spirits sometimes. If it's their building or their location or their property, or do you get like nose to nose sometimes? Have you had that when you've opened the door and gone into a building and it's like, whoa, I've got a shadow right in front of me, or I've got somebody really, really close that's like not stopping you coming in, but wants to know more about you before they'll try and let you through the property or through the door or anything like that? Have you ever had an experience like that?
Nothing to the extreme that it would actually like make me not want to go in there if I'm going into a place. It does happen. I feel it every time I go into a place, especially like a building. I feel what kind of energy is there, and then I basically start piecing together what kind of spirits have been there for a while and been just hanging around. And usually, I guess my aura, whichever one you call it, my protection, I guess, my shielding, just basically keeps them not from getting in my face. Sometimes though, you'd find spirits in bodies that you can even go so far as to say demonic energy almost. Especially when somebody on like a weekend, a Saturday, a Friday, when everybody's all drunk and stuff like that. When the times like you can just feel like a fight's about to brew with a certain group of people because of how they're carrying on and stuff. Not just the physical and verbal things that's going on in there around you. You can just feel the intensity of the energy around you. It's almost enough to make your hair stand up. And then you can also feel that not with just actual physical people. You can feel that with spirits too. So you can feel like, oh man, it's like if you go into a room and it feels stuffy.
Linda's asking again there another question of have you ever been around any crop circles or investigated or picked up on any crop circles, or do you have any of that over in the States? I don't know whether you have crop circle clubs or people that go and investigate them as well, like looking for the extraterrestrial side of it, or anything of the misdemeanors around the crop circle, because some people say that they're man-made and some people say, you know, where have they come from? Have you ever had anything around the crop circle that's been quite intriguing by yourself in Louisiana?
Not so much in Louisiana, but there was a group, and they actually had a convention down in Texas that I almost went to, but I think I was at the time when I was still working the 9-to-5 job, so I wasn't able to go to that. I was intrigued, though. As far as crop circles go, and if I believe in it or not, I believe that a majority of them are probably man-made by somebody who's very creative. Like, creative people will go to places that aren't theirs and make them by either folding it down. But there's a bunch of humans are very creative, so don't put it past humans to be that creative to make it seem like it's something else. But at the same time, some of them are like, I can't really quantify how human, or a group of humans could do this. So. Some cases we don't really know. Other cases, a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ingenuity.
We'll have to see.
And we have that small percentage.
Yeah, we have a very famous. We have a very famous artist over there called Banksy, and he does a lot of street work or street art. And then if they find something like a door or a shutter or anything like that that's been painted by Banksy, it's worth a lot. But there is some creative people out there, I feel, towards the crop circles. I do feel if they've got a prior picture and they want to do a crop circle, I do think it's quite within reach to do it if you're quite artistic, like, pacing it out and stuff like that. If we don't know at the minute. I've got no answers for that, but I have seen amazing creative people out there as well. What would you take beyond anything extraterrestrial, or do you think the universe is still to be discovered and there's much further for us to go?
I'd very much like to be able to have discussions with people who built the pyramids, Stonehenge. I'd like to actually have a conversation with them and figure out what was going through their head when they got it, because they probably got messages on how to do those from something else. I don't believe that we're alone, that's for sure. But as far as they've come to visit us, maybe through some kind of extra dimensional type of wave. I don't think physical spacecraft would be the way to do it. If they were going to do it, they'd find another way. And from what we know already through all the spiritual experiences, who's to say that they're not just spiritual beings that were able to astral project over here? I mean, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, most definitely.
When I was looking at my birth chart, though,
yeah, it's okay.
Looking at my birth chart, and like, okay, well, when it comes to the stars, I'm just like, okay, well, whenever I was born, at what constellation was pointing where I was on Earth at the time that I was born? It turns out from the Hydra constellation. I can't remember the name of the star, the Aegis or something. I can't remember the name. Starts with the A. It's the brightest star in the Hydra constellation. I'm just like, okay, well, let me learn about the Hydra. Well, you don't have to look through what anybody's gone through as far as the star constellation Hydra and what it's about. You can go through actual mythology and find out what the actual Hydra, what Hercules slayed the Hydra and stuff like that. You can take spiritual cues from that and figure out things about you, like people who are born under the Hydra constellation may have a tendency to have bad lungs and stuff like that, which when I was born, I had the umbilical cord around my neck, and I had pneumonia about 7 times when I was a baby. But all of that together, like, my lungs were really weak when I was born. So, I mean, that is definitely a thing. So it happened.
Again, Linda's asking some amazing questions tonight, and thanks for all the questions coming in. Please feel free to ask any more questions as well. She said Lucy Pringle over in the UK photographed crop circles for many years over in England as well, and she obviously hasn't seen any of her podcasts for ages as well, but she's saying there is certain people that are intrigued by the crop circles as well. I'm going to touch on and think outside the box. Have you had any near-death experiences? So when you say you had like lung problems or you've had a little bit of illness in the past, have you had any like near-death experience or out-of-body experiences? We touched on astral projecting earlier on. Do you go? Have you had any? Have you had any of that experiences that you could explain?
As far as the out of body, one time I think it came in through not quite a dream because I wasn't asleep, so it wasn't a dream. I just had my eyes closed, and I went to some far off galaxy. I don't know where this was. It might not have been in the Milky Way, but it's another planet that was completely burnt up. It was molten lava, and it was just a big molten planet around a very dim star. And I started going across the surface of it until I found this one little green area. It was like a house, like a regular human-made house, and one area on this really desolate place. And I sat there, and there was a spiritual teacher. From what I could tell, it felt when I started looking up on it later on, it felt like Archangel Uriel. And after learning about him, I was like, okay, connecting the dots, everything else. This is what Archangel Uriel's about. And he was teaching a bunch of people in that little backyard on a desolate planet, and like a little green spot on there. It was really strange. It was the most vivid or the most lucid dream I've ever had, where I felt like I was physically there. And like there was animals that were like a mix between guinea pigs and rabbits. They were real cute, but everybody had them in their laps and just hanging out with animals while listening to this light being talk about stuff and teach and everything else. That was a very good experience for that. As far as a near death, I was working at the construction place doing some trenching where we dig the trenches and we put the pipes in there and connect them and everything else. I was trying to get a pipe connected to the other one, and a mound of dirt, like sandy dirt, like fell inches from my head. Needless to say, I took a break for the rest of the day. That scared the bejesus out of me. I almost got buried alive. And lastly, I was in the back of my dad's truck. Oh, go ahead. Ask your question. I got the story for later.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Obviously, when you was touching on seeing things so clear and the clarity, and when you're describing it, there's people there that you might be around and you're explaining some of that to them, and then 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later down the line, they might have a certain dream of what you've explained. They might see certain colours and the certain ways that you're describing stuff, and then they come back to you and go, oh, you know what you was talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago? I had quite a similar vivid experience of that as well. Do you find some of that goes on sometimes?
Nobody's came forward with that so far, but it's most likely going to happen at some point. I'll be doing this for the rest of my life, so I'm pretty sure it'll happen at some point. Probably the biggest clue. Huh?
It's okay. Carry on. I keep forgetting about the time.
How does he? Yeah, it stops me because I feel like it's a quiet set. I'm like, okay, I can talk, and then you start talking. I'm like, oh, yep, that was a delay. But no, this is probably the most spiritual experience I had, and the biggest confirmation, even more so than that clocking out at 11 p.m. was I was sitting in the back of my dad's truck, and I was getting a little. I'd already quit my job and everything else. I'm doing the cards, I'm learning them, I'm doing readings. And I'm just sitting in the back of my dad's truck, which I had like a few pieces of, just random junk in there, but not a lot. Like a small little bunk bed ladder, and that's really about it, and gas can, all that. And I'm just sitting there meditating. I got my legs crossed, doing it the traditional style. And I'm under the full moon. It's nighttime, clear, no clouds, nothing. I'm sitting there meditating, and just something was itching at me for a minute. And I was like, okay, well, I need to know. I need to know. And I was like, I don't mean to depride all the spiritual entities and stuff, but my skepticism was starting to get to me from my most of my life. And then I just asked straight up. I was like, because I felt really drawn when I first awakened to Archangel Raziel, so I learned about him a little bit, and I felt really similar to him. So I asked the question to nobody around, just like if I really am like part of the Archangel Uriel energy and or not Uriel but Archangel Raziel energy, and spirituality and all this is really real, then like show me a sign of physical proof right now. That way I know for sure I'm on the right path. I want a physical proof. You're not supposed to ask for physical proof, so I felt kind of bad for that. So I want physical proof that I'm part angel or something like that, and it's all real. And nothing happens for like 5 or 6 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go to bed. I'm gonna go inside, go to bed, feel defeated. And as soon as I get up, I hear a piece of metal hit the truck bed. And I look down. It's a angel pendant with one of the wings cut off, and just like a pendant, like an actual pendant with 4 bells hanging off of it, and it had one of the wings was broken off. It had 4 embedded gems. 2 of the gems were missing. One of the wings was missing, but it had 4 bells on it, and I wore that for a little while, and it disappeared one night when I was sleeping. I woke up and it was gone, but I had it for a little while. It was crazy to have physical proof show up when I asked for it. You don't get much cooler than that.
That is certainly, I'd say the closest I've had to an experience like that was I was on an investigation, and somebody said to me for months, "You're going to be receiving like a spiritual ring." And I was on an investigation, finishing a coffee break or whatever, and I got up and there was a silver ring on the floor, but it looked really, really ancient. You could have said like medieval or anything like that. And then obviously somebody said, "Oh, is this anybody's ring? Has anybody lost this ring?" And the lady that ran the place went, "Oh, it's okay. I'll hand it into lost property tomorrow in the morning." And that was the last I've seen of it. But I do believe that was spiritually to be given for myself, not for me for wearing a ring, but to receive that as part of my spiritual path and journey as well. Like you said, somebody mentioned it a couple of months, and then that happened just out the blue. In not brilliant light, it was quite dark in the place as well, but it just stood out like anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. People actually find feathers and think of them as gifts from angels. And when it comes to deity, like gods, goddesses, whether it be Greek, Roman, Catholic, Christian, even Muslims, Buddhist gods and goddesses, all that kind of stuff, like all of them, they actually exist through people manifesting them. It's basically not so much they gave names to them, of course, but the energies were already there. They just put names to them.
Yeah, and again, welcome to all.
For me to come to a conclusion.
When you're out there in Louisiana and you're out in the middle of the open and you're meditating, do you have much light pollution, or is it more really, really pitch black out there when you're going out? How's your light pollution out there? I know you're in a small town, but how do you find it where you are? There's certain places I go in North Wales and there's not much light pollution.
It's actually pretty clear where I'm at right now. Closer to the bigger cities you get, the less light, the more light pollution there is. But where I'm at right now, I can go outside in the middle of the night tonight. If there's a clear sky, I can lay on the grass in the front yard, even with the lamp that's nearby, and still see just fine. Thank you.
Okay, Shane. Lovely to meet you, Dante. She's saying good luck with your work as well, and she's saying that I was so perspective as well. So again, thanks for tuning in, Linda. And again, this is what it's about. It's meeting people that's working in and around spirit and that sharing their experiences as well. At some point, have you ever pulled any type of spirit forward to communicate with them, where you're like, I need to talk to a relative or a certain person? Have you ever? And not a lot of people know that you can do this working like with mediumship or anything like that, or tarot reading or anything. You can actually call spirit forward to come in and explain themselves of what's going on as well, where you like, right, we need to get to the bottom of what's going on, spirit. You need to come forward now and bring them into your area or work zone. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I usually try to avoid that unless I'm in the right kind of mindset. If I'm not in the right mindset, it's fairly dangerous to do that, because you're calling out to a spirit you may not get the one you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I've had some spirits come in disguised as other spirits to try to convince me of something one way or another, and that something just felt off. I'm like, this is the spirit I want to talk to. So sometimes you get the ones you want, sometimes you don't. You have to be careful and be spiritually strong whenever you're trying to call the one you want to talk to. So it's always good to be aware that like sometimes you might call for a different spirit. You might be calling for one and get another one.
And Lockbeard said, "What's the show's all about?" Well, obviously we're coming quite close to the end of the show now, Lockbeard. It's just basically catching up with people, spiritual minded all over the UK and all over the world and the globe, and sharing our experiences of what we've come across and how we've interacted on our path and where we're up to today as well. And we've certainly had a good little catch up there as well. Is there any other questions there in the house? Where can people get hold of you, young man, and where can people get a reading from you? Or have you got a certain page or a web link or a YouTube page, which we touched on before?
Yeah, I started a Facebook group and a page. Sometimes I go live on my actual personal profile. I am starting to get back on task with my YouTube channel. I can send you all the links to those if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
At some point in time, if you would like.
I'll put that on towards the end of the credits and that as well, and I'll tie it in on I'll share it on my page and everything else as well.
I might have missed it, but I think Jennifer had a question. It's not showing up right now, but I saw Jennifer had a question.
Yeah, she was saying on your spiritual, I'm just going to go back up on that. I was saying, how did you get into the, where is it? There it is, astrology charts. Did you get into them type of things? How did you get into the astrology charts?
Well, after that first reading that was very accurate, which is a one-on-one reading with my mentor from the time, I got real heavy into getting the readings and stuff like that. And so without really knowing the rest of my chart, I started going to all the YouTube channels that did like zodiac sign based readings, for the monthlies and the weeklies and stuff. And I started getting heavily into watching the Leo ones all the time because I'm a Leo sun. And then some of them would hit and some of them wouldn't. And then one of the channels ladies said, if this doesn't if it doesn't resonate with you, maybe check your moon, your rising, your Venus sign. They might resonate with that sign. I'm just like, wait, we have more than okay. So I started diving into that, and I was like, I kind of want to do this. This is very interesting. It's more ground based, where I can actually get some solid information about it. That's when I started diving into my own chart and learning that is like me. This I do act like this when this time. It's not so much to be like, oh, it's what do they call it? Mental persuasion. Whenever you would read something and you just you want to agree with it, so it seems more agreeable. I was completely skeptical going into it, so I was just like, okay, well, I don't believe all this. And then I started reading the descriptions. I'm like, I actually am like this, though.
What would your take on I'm a Virgo, obviously. What was your take on a Virgo?
Virgo sun signs. So your sun basically would be the sign and the energy that all your other signs' energies they filter through your sun, basically. Where you're right, your ascendant would be like your personality. Your moon would be like how you react and respond and how you're emotional and stuff like that, and also to some extent to do with your mother. But as far as your sun sign, it's how you shine. It's the sun, so it's how you shine. And for you as a Virgo sun sign, I'd say you're very practical. And if things don't, if you can't really put things into a solid perspective in your own way, it doesn't really. It's not as appealing to you unless you can organize it and structure it in a certain way. It doesn't quite catch your fancy as much as it normally would have with someone else. The earth energy is definitely a bonus to have.
They're all coming in now. Linda Virgo too, Moon Leo, sending Pisces as well. So again, Do you work with the moons? Do you work with the full moon, the new moons? Do you work with all them? Do you charge your crystals up around them periods or anything like that?
Some of them. Sometimes I don't do it because it's like my opposite energy or something like that. And I'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna. Sometimes it's good to chill. Sometimes it's good to actually do things. Whether it's full moon or new moon, the eclipses, depending on what sign and what house it's in at the time that it comes around. Uh, some people might need to chill because of what they got going on. They could end up getting into some trouble by trying to go out in the world and do stuff. I mean, you see it with people who don't know about the astrology all the time. When people go out and get the bar fights stuff like that on a full moon night, because as I say, full moons energy is all charged up. If you want to take a look at it with a quick and easy perspective, like new moons is the time to start things. Full moons is when things come to play out. It's almost like the new moons are you're writing the script with a new moon, and then the play happens on the full moon.
The lovely Jenny John Hammond said, "What's your take on a Cancerian?"
Well, the stereotypical Cancerians would be super emotional, but a lot of times Cancerians can have a lot of emotional strengths with them. They're not so much guided by their emotions. They can understand emotions more so than others. Hi, Jared. I met Jared during lives.
Yeah, me too as well. Jared's been part of the show, and obviously lovely Jennifer's put us on to Jared as well. Good evening, young man. So, right, as we're coming to the end, is there anything else that you think you'd like to cover, or would you like to say anything to our lovely viewers out there as well? Is there anything you'd say for the week ahead? How would you feel that the week ahead is for everybody, or anything with good luck?
We do have an eclipse coming up.
Hey?
There's an eclipse coming up. I gotta check out what sign it's going in, but there is an eclipse coming up pretty soon. But honestly, just stay with your intuition. If there's anything you really want to have in your life, stay grounded when it comes to it. A lot of times we'll get distracted. We get distracted all the time. Commercials, our hobbies. But there's something you really want, put as much energy as you really can to get some stuff going. I'm actually in the process of doing that myself, so I'm with you on that one. I got distractions all around me. Ain't that right?
I know, yeah, you do. I think I lost my cat a year last February.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I have one last thing to add before we go. Yeah. I keep forgetting it, but before I forget it again, when it comes to the astrology thing, I would very much like to either write a book, or probably both. Write a book on astrology with my own perspectives and stances on each sign and all that kind of stuff. I also, because it's not so much, it kind of is because I'm a Leo sun sign, which has a lot to do with like kids, vibrant energy and stuff like that, youthful energy. I also wanted to make astrology flashcards. I don't think I've seen too many of those around as far as in circulation. But if I can make some astrology flashcards, people can take the whole deck, which is going to be a pretty big stack with all the different combinations there are, and just take up the cards that are them, or for whoever the person that they want to do the reading for. And you can just, something to make it more, something easier to work with when it comes to astrology, where it's not so much you got a book this big and you got to flip through all the pages. With cards, I think you can just, separate the cards a little bit in certain ways and then piece together what you want. I think kids would love doing that. So, getting to know you, who you are and what energies you come from is a very important thing. More important than people give it credit for, really. It'll help you get out of some sticky situations that you don't necessarily have to go through to learn lessons. The universe loves to throw hard lessons on people when they're hard-headed. So.
Right. Thank you for your time, young man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for sharing you taking your time and sharing your experiences as well. And we'll certainly put your links up. If you send them over, we'll add them onto the end of the credits and all that as well, so people can have a look on there as well. But thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for everybody in the comments and asking the questions as well. If you stay live, don't click off. I'll end the broadcast and we'll have a little catch up before you go. So again, tune in, folks, onto Keep On Chatting Platform Network, and we've got some amazing shows coming up this week. So have a little look of the up and coming shows. I think I'll be back Thursday, possibly 9 o'clock on the open mic hour. So I look forward to speaking and catching up with all you lovely people out there soon. So stay safe. Thanks for your time. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Dante. You staying there. Thanks a lot, and nice to see you.